Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to have a look at another collaboration beer, and this one is half Swedish on the home side and half English on the away side. Both of these breweries have featured on the channel before. They both carry a very good reputation. The Swedish brewery for pretty much any style of beer that they try, and the English brewery are very well known in particular for their New England IPAs. And I think they do a few kind of Berliner Weisses and sour beers and things like that as well these days. So for the home side of this one then, we are going to head up towards Gothenburg once again. Göteborg, as you would say in Swedish, the Swedish craft beer capital on the west coast, as I always say. And we're going to have a look at another beer from Beerbliotek. So this one is called The Fancy Meeting You here, number 281 in their numbering system, and it's a collaboration with North Brewing Company, who are of course from Leeds in Yorkshire in England. This one is a New England Session IPA coming in at 5% ABV, and it's another one that Beerbliotek have done for their birthday celebrations. So yeah, very curious to see how this one turns out. This was released as part of the local Småskoligt assortment in Systembolaget here in Sweden on the 1st of June 2020, and you already saw me review the Happy Birthday Trucker one a couple of videos back, the collaboration between Beerbliotek and Brewski, and you will see me review the collaboration between Beerbliotek and Three Weavers quite soon as well. So yeah, curious to see how this one turns out. I always enjoy a good IPA from Beerbliotek, one of my favourite Swedish breweries I have to say, and these guys are good at pretty much any style that they try, and it's nice to encounter North Brewing again. When I go home I do need to make sure I get a couple of North beers to review for you on the channel, because they were pretty good when I was reviewing some of those. When I was in Durham in England, I was pretty impressed with those guys. So yeah, definitely looking forward to this one, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries involved here before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I've done, both from Beerbliotek and from North Brewing. No doubt there will be some more added to both of those lists in the near future. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is that takes your fancy. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for both the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you and another one for the English beers. This one will appear in both of those because it is dual nationality. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Beerbliotek then, first off, on to my brewery notes. So as I've told you before, Beerbliotek are based in Gothenburg at Göteborg, and they were founded back in 2013 by a multinational group of friends. This is Adam Norman, who's Australian, Richard Bull, who's from New Zealand, a Kiwi, Anders Hedlund, who is Swedish, and also Darrell de Necker, who comes from South Africa. So Adam and Richard ran Bar Doppio in Gothenburg, and then Darrell and Anders were regular customers at the bar, and they often just used to sit and talk about beer. And one day they decided that they were going to buy a kit and brew their own stuff. So the original brewery that they had is in the old Klippan Sugar building, which is a really nice old building very close to the old Carnegie Brewery in Gothenburg. Quite a famous company. I say this in every Beerbliotek video that I do, but I do need to review some of the old Carnegie porters and things like that. But the brew kit that they have there is from Brewfab in Scotland, and in their first year they apparently produced 38 different varieties of beer. And all of these were brewed in very small batches, so they wanted to stick to their home brewing roots, and you know, at that stage they were very rarely brewing the same beer. But over the years they've got a few beers that have made several appearances, like a passion for gingers and some of the variants of the black IPAs and things like that. But they are always still producing new beers with new recipes at the same time. So yeah, in 2015 they opened a second brewery in Kungston, which is where they now have their main tap room, and they now run their main brewing operations as well. The older brewery is now a sour beer brewery, and there is a bar there that you can go to as well, and they're also working on quite a large barrel aging project in the new brewery as well. And if you go on the Beerbliotek website, you can get quite a lot of details on all the different beers that they've produced as part of the barrel aging project. They do have a Scotch ale in there that hasn't been released through Systembolaget yet, and I would dearly love to have a go at that beer, because these guys are very good when it comes to the, you know, the big high alcohol beers as well, in my experience. One of the best beers I've had from Beerbliotek was called Would I Lie to You, and I think that was a big barley wine, if I remember correctly, but it was a beautiful Beautiful beer that, actually, and if you do get the chance to try that one, I highly recommend that you do. But the idea behind the name Beerbliotek was that they wanted to brew a wide variety of beers so that the customer can always learn something new about a different hop variety, a different malt, or a different yeast strain or whatever, and basically the idea was to create a library of beer, hence the name Beerbliotek. So yeah, because in Swedish, of course, bibliotek is library. But as of June 2020, these guys have produced 265 different kinds of beer, and no doubt that will continue to rise over the course of the next months and years and things like that. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about Beerbliotek for the moment. If you want to learn more, you can check out the brewery website. There's an extensive list of different beers and things on there as well, but of course you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages as well to get more intimate details on all of those different beers that they have. So yeah, let's go on to the English side of this brewery then, or the English side of this beer, I guess I should say. So North Brewing, as I've told you before, are based in Leeds, and they were founded by John Gunnell and Christian Townsley, who owned the North Beer Bar, which was opened back in 1997. Today they operate 6 venues around the city, and apparently North Bar used to work quite closely with the likes of James Clay and Vertical Drinks to promote craft beer in Yorkshire. As you'll know, Yorkshire, or as you may know I should say, Yorkshire has it's one of the most it's one of the areas in England that has the most kind of historical reference to the likes of craft beer. Rooster Brewing, of course, are one of the oldest, what we could probably call, craft breweries in England. Actually, they've been going since the 80s, if I remember correctly. But this brewery is located in Taverners Walk Industrial Estate. It's got a 200-person tap room and has a 15 BBL brew kit there. They've been gradually expanding their fermentation capacity over the last few years to kind of build their exports and things. And the brewers at the brewery are Seb Brink, who used to work for Golden Owl, and also Darius Darwell, who used to work for the Bristol Beer Factory. Bristol, of course, a very, very good beer city these days. But as of June 2020, these guys have produced around 150 different beers, and in my experience, this brewery are mainly known for their kind of New England hazy style IPAs, but you'll also get the likes of, Berliner Weisses and I think a few Goses and things from these guys as well. So yeah, a very well respected brewery in England these days. North, Wylam, Cloudwater, Daya. These guys are the big boys when it comes to, the New England IPAs. Those are the kind of bigger and better known English craft breweries, but there are a lot of very, very good breweries in England these days, I have to say. So yeah, that's all I can really tell you about North Brewing for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, of course, you can check out the brewery website in the description below. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, that's it for the brewery history side of things. Let's get on to actually tasting the beer then. So I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork on this one before we open up there. You can see it is pretty nice, like the screen. The artwork on the screen there, but as I say, it says fancy meeting you here, number 281. It says on the side here, random meetings organised by friends in random countries at organised events. That's where we meet up with North. Some of the nicest and most genuine people in beer. So yeah, another one, as I say, this one from what I gather was produced as part of the birthday celebration that Beerbliotek had, along with the last one you saw me review that was the collaboration with Brewski, which was called, they always got to have really long names, these Beerbliotek beers. What was it? Don't You Look So Surprised, Happy Birthday Trucker, and I think that was number 283 if I remember rightly. So yeah, and this one I think obviously is number 281, so a little bit before that, but it says NE colon SIPA, so I think that just means New England Session IPA, because it is 5% ABV, this one. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this one then. 330ml can, like I said, released on the 1st of June 2020 through the local Småskoligt assortment in here in Sweden. So let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. This should be quite good actually. Session IPAs, this is a style that I think is very difficult to get properly correct, if you like. It is very difficult to get this one kind of properly, it is very difficult to get this properly correct. I mean, one of the best session IPAs I've had recently from Sweden was the Niblina from Remelöv Gårds Brewery here in Skåne in the very south of the country. Yeah, no, I would reckon that I would reckon that that's probably one of the best ones I've had, but I'm curious to see what North Brewing and Beerbliotek can produce, because they are also very capable in this category, I have to say. But yeah, as you can see with this beer, and as you would expect, it's poured a lovely kind of bright yellow colour. There's a good level of haze to this one, although it's not the soupiest and haziest of New Englands that you're going to come across. At 5%, you wouldn't expect that, because obviously if you compare this to, you know, an 8% or whatever, the content of oats and wheat and things is going to be a bit lower. You could see that when we poured this beer, it had a solid finger, maybe finger and a half, of a frothy white head there. I would say it's a perfect white head, and that's going to fade away just to be a very kind of thin foamy layer. I can gradually see it getting more and more bumpy as we go down, but one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there, and overall it does look pretty nice. It looks pretty much as you would expect from a New England IPA or a New England Session IPA, however you want to call it. But yeah, definitely leaning towards the yellow end of the spectrum, and I would say that it's more a kind of bright yellow rather than a kind of pale yellow, if you like. So yeah, it looks exactly how you would expect for a Session New England. Let's have a look at the aroma then and just see how we get on. That smells really nice, actually. It's got a lovely kind of juiciness to it, and the malt base actually smells remarkably kind of full as well. So let's focus on the malt first then. So this is just what I usually do. With this one, you can smell a nice little bit of that kind of pale malty quality there. There is a little bit of bitiness from the wheat, but I would say that this one leans towards the kind of breadier side of things, and I have been noticing that with quite a few New England IPAs recently. There does seem to be they do seem to be starting to lean a little bit more towards the bready side of things, rather than being kind of either more white wheaty and bitey or more kind of creamy and oaty, if that makes sense. So yeah, this one does strike me as being a little bit more kind of bready-ish. You do get a bit, the more I smell of it, the more I do get a bit of wheaty bitiness out of it though, and I think with Session IPAs that's a good way to go. If you get a good bit of wheaty bitiness out of it, it gives the beer just a little bit of punch that you would normally get from something that's higher in alcohol. And I guess with the amount of head that this beer had, and the way it's retaining its head, actually there probably is a good bit of wheat in this one, because the wheat does help head retention. But yeah, lovely. The more and more I smell of it, you get a bit more of a wheaty bitiness out of it. Good little bit of a softer white bready character, like I said. You can pick up a little bit of the oaty smoothness in this one further towards the front of the nose, and there's also just a little touch of a kind of biscuity sweetness in this one. So I like how this, I do like how this goes together. There is a nice little bit of earthiness to this one as well. Just you can pick up a little bit of that. So I do suspect there might be a wee touch of mosaic in here. Good little bit of floral aromaticity, which kind of blends in with the kind of bitiness of the wheat, I have to say. And there's also a lighter bit of, there's also a good little bit of a lighter grassiness with this beer as well. So I like how that goes together, I have to say. Yeah, the aroma, the nice and juicy fruity aroma of this one comes across very, very nicely, I have to say. So yeah, take a little bit of time and enjoy that aroma there. The green side of the hops I think leans a bit more towards the floral side of things, but it does have that lighter grassiness to it, and the malt base definitely gets more and more wheaty and bitey the more that you smell of it. But on the fruity side of things, this one's quite interesting. It's got a good balance here. There's definitely a good bit of an orangey, an oily orange in there. I do suspect there's mosaic in this, because you've got a bit of earthiness and you've got a good little bit of that kind of just oily orangey kind of thing in there. There's just something distinctive about this beer that's telling me from experience there might be mosaic in here. But you've got some really nice kind of softer tropical notes to it as well. So yeah, there is a wee bit of a kind of slightly, there is a bit of a kind of mango-ish quality to this one. But you've also got some of the apricots and papayas and things, those sort of softer tropical notes actually. So I like how this, I do like how all of this goes together actually, come to think of it. It's really, it's a really nice and kind of welcoming IPA. The fruits are really nice and smooth and juicy, and you've got just a little bit of that kind of oily citrusy thing going on from the orange too. So I do like what's going on with this, I do like what's going on with this beer, I have to say. They've got a really nice kind of solid take on the they've got a solid take on a New England Session here, I have to say. So well done to both breweries. The aroma is really quite nice, but yeah, quite a soft tropical fruity leaning IPA. I would say it leans towards that tropical fruit side of things. Bit of mango, bit of a kind of apricot papaya type thing. I'm not quite sure about pineapple, but there's definitely a nice kind of oily tangerine orangey note to this one as well. So definitely take a bit of time to enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. It's got a really nice kind of combination of things going on. A bit more wheaty and bitey the more you smell of it. Some good floral aromaticity, bit of grassiness. Then you've got those fruity notes that I was just talking about as well. So yeah, really nice aroma coming out of this one, I have to say. So yeah, this one is the Fancy Meeting You here, a Session New England IPA at 5% ABV by Beerbliotek in Gothenburg here in Sweden, brewed in collaboration with North Brewing Company from Leeds in Yorkshire in England. So let's get stuck into this one then. Sláinte, skål. Oh yeah, yeah. That is a really nice, just easy drinking New England, in my opinion. It's difficult. I mean, I think with these kind of beers, it's difficult to get the malt base right. You know, the hops I don't think are madly difficult, and I think, you know, the yeast isn't going to be much of a problem as well. But the thing is just to get a malt base that gives you the nice kind of smoothness and the things that you would expect. And I think they've got this pretty bang on here for a session IPA. This is really quite nice actually, because some of these ones, they can often just feel very grainy, and I think it's the fact that they don't have enough. I always think that I've kind of formed the opinion over the last kind of year or so that I think when you have session New Englanders, if you like, they have a yeast that's a little bit more almost kind of farmhousey and gives you a lot of grainy kind of flavour, and I think if you've not got enough malt to balance that out, then that's where you really struggle with the session IPAs. It's almost like they've got a kind of golden zone, if you like. With this, with certain yeasts, you have to have a certain amount of malt in it to kind of balance it out, if you like. So yeah, that's definitely something to that's definitely something you need to keep in mind with these beers. So yeah, I like this one. They've got the malt base and the yeasty side of the beer quite well balanced, because I think that's some of the things with session IPAs. I think that's the most difficult thing to get here actually. But yeah, I like how this goes together. Let's try and break down the flavour of this one then and see how we go on. So straight away with this beer, you can feel that kind of pale malty quality that just blankets the middle of your tongue. It does get a little bit more grainy the further you go into the aftertaste, I have to say. You do get a little bit more of a kind of graininess out of it. In the very centre of your tongue, there's a wee bit of a kind of biscuity sweetness as well, which I quite like. Yeah, I do like how this how that goes together. I mean, you do get a little touch of just a biscuity sweetness the further you go into the aftertaste, but the malt base on this is very straight up. It feels like kind of pale malty underneath. You do get a wee bit of the biscuit sweetness, like I say, and as you go further forward on the as you go further forward in that middle third of your tongue, it does feel as if it has a little bit of an oaty character, but it tastes as if it's got a little bit of an oaty character, but I suspect it might not have, because it doesn't quite have some of the big creamy smoothness that you would normally get from the oaty notes. As you go further back in this one, of course, it does get a bit more kind of grainy and bitey. I'd say there is a good little bit of a wheaty bitiness in the back third of the tongue. Some of that, you get some more other types of grainy notes from the yeasty side of things as well. The beer is notably drier in the back third of the tongue there, but I like how all of these kind of things fit together in this one. This is really nicely, it really is kind of nicely placed together, this beer. I like how that, I do like how it kind of turns out, to be honest. Yeah, this one is really quite nicely, it really is quite nicely done, I have to say. I like how, I do like how that the malt base in this one goes together. So on the hoppy side of things, you get a little bit of earthiness in the back corners of the palate. So some of that earthiness is kind of is pushing out towards the edge of the palate there, and it builds a good bridge between the sort of grainy aspects and the drier aspects you have at the back of the palate there. But as you come further forward along the sides of the palate, you can feel the earthiness gradually evolves to be a little bit more kind of grassy and floral. It's a little bit spicy at the front corners of the palate, then round the very front curve of the tongue it's a little bit lighter and grassy. Then behind the front curve of the tongue, it's got a nice, that's where you get that front third of your palate, of course, and that's where you get the juicy, fruity esters pushing their way out of the beer. So yeah, I like how this one I do like how this one kind of pieces itself together. I mean, the fruity side of this is quite nice, I have to say. If you go towards the back of that fruity part of the palate, it's got a little bit of the darker kind of passion fruity type notes that you'd expect. As you move further forward from it, it's got a little bit more mango. You do get a few of these kind of apricot papaya type notes out of it, but I think those are quite minimal. I'd say that it leans more towards the mango. I'd say, yeah, generally I think the fruity side of this beer leans more towards the mango side of things. And as you come towards the front half of that front third of your tongue, if you like, the front sixth of your tongue, I guess you can say, it does have a bit more of a kind of tangerine-y, orangey sort of thing. So I suspect mosaic in this one, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's maybe, could it be a bit of galaxy or something like that? Mosaic and galaxy would make sense with this, because you know, it does taste like passion fruit, but it's got a wee bit more kind of complexity to it. There are other hops it could be like El Dorado, it could be, I don't think it's quite soft enough to be Idaho 7, could be one of the various New Zealand ones, could be Victoria's Secret as well. But yeah, basically the fruity side of this one for me, a little bit of darker kind of passion fruit, but mainly leaning towards a mango side of things on the tropical part of the beer. And then it's got a nice little bit of a kind of orangey edge to it, which I do suspect is mosaic because of the earthiness in the back corners of the beer. But yeah, when it comes to session IPAs, you don't want them to be too complex in terms of their fruitiness. You want them just to kind of be nice and soft and drinkable, and that's exactly what you've got with this one. So in terms of a session IPA, I think both breweries have done a pretty damn solid job here. It's definitely one of the kind of, again, it's one of the sort of breadier leaning ones that I've had. Some of them can have a little bit more wheaty bitiness than this, and this one I think is a little touch more grainy than others, but it works out quite nicely, I have to say. So yeah, thumbs up to both Beerbliotek and thumbs up to both Beerbliotek and North Brewing Company for this one. They've pulled off a solid beer here, in my opinion. So yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, kind of light to mid-bodied beer, this one, I would say. I'd say probably top end of light bodied, bottom end of mid bodied. I think that's a fair place to put it. The carbonation in this one is really quite smooth. This beer overall feels quite wet and quite crisp at the same time, which isn't uncommon for a session IPA. In terms of hoppy bitterness, I think we're talking the fairly standard, 30-ish IBUs for this one. I think we are talking about that. It might feel like a little bit more because of the sort of graininess that the beer has, but yeah, definitely a little bit of that in this one. The malt base, as I say, is quite kind of sort of flat. It doesn't really have, it's quite bready rather than anything else. It's not got the sweetness you get from some of them. A little bit more kind of graininess towards the back of the palate there, which is quite nice. And you've got some nice kind of floral aromaticity and a good little bit of lighter grassiness in this beer as well. But overall, a very, very nice session IPA, this one, and I do like how all these different flavours sort of fit together. So yeah, this is a really nicely done, it's a really nicely done session IPA in my opinion, and I wouldn't hesitate to drink that again. I think it's a bit of a shame if this one is just a one-off brew, because I think as a session IPA this is one of the better ones I've had in recent times. This and the Niblina from Remaloof Gårdsbryggery have been really impressive session IPAs. So I would say if Beerbliotek are watching, do think about making this one more of a regular beer, because I think this is pretty solid for a session IPA. But in fairness, Beerbliotek also do have the Moment of Clarity, which is a session IPA as well, and that is a pretty damn solid beer actually. That's one that I would always recommend that people try. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this review then. This one was the Fancy Seeing You Here, a session New England IPA at 5% ABV from Beerbliotek in Gothenburg here in Sweden, and North Brewing from Leeds in Yorkshire in England. Thank you again for watching my beer reviews. As always, let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are, both from Beerbliotek and from North Brewing. We will return to both of these breweries at some point in the near future. Check out my social media, check out different beers from both of these breweries, and I will catch you guys very soon. This one was the Fancy Seeing You Here, 5% New England Session IPA from Beerbliotek, one of my favourite Swedish breweries in Gothenburg here in Sweden, and North Brewing Company, a very, very highly rated brewery from Leeds in Yorkshire in England. Slàinte, skål, catch you guys very soon. Cheers.